Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking
Yeah.
through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes, get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN.
Hey, Mel. What's up?
Hi, Anita. You look like you're sick and sound sick.
I am sick. I sound like a man. I sound like a man, but that's okay. Men are fine.
My gosh. Okay. Anyway, well, I haven't seen you for a bit. I've been super, super busy.
Yeah, tell me about the thing that just happened. You had a thing last night. What was it?
So, you know how I started the jazz student nonprofit thing?
Yes.
Our first event where we flew in touring musicians came to pass.
And it
And
came to pass.
And behold, it came to pass that Mel did do many details and did delegate many things, and still yet did do many details. And it took much time upon the land. And then the event happened, and it was amazing. It was so
Oh,
fun.
good.
Because, you plan events and you think, who's going to come? Like, I hope that the people that say they're going to come actually come. And it involves like parents taking their kids to a clinic and like
Mm-hmm.
jazz clinic and then a concert. So it's a thing. And the kids were so stoked.
Oh,
There
good.
was such good energy there. They loved the clinic. And then the concert started, and because the audience was a lot of students and their band directors and families and stuff, it was one of the best audiences I've ever been in. Ever.
Was there any tuba playing at the
No.
concert?
That's
Oh,
probably why it was
shame.
so good. But yeah, and the band was super interactive with each other and then with the audience, and it was one of those moments where as a performer you don't really have those experiences often, where the audience and the performers are all on the same wavelength together, and it's like the whole room elevates. And I could not have asked for a better turnout and day.
Oh,
So
good.
it was so good. I'm happy, and I'm happy it's over.
It's always nice when it turns out good because then your hard work feels like it's worth it and you have the energy to do it again. Like if it would have sucked, it would have been hard to be like, okay, we're going to do this again. And hopefully it will be better next time. So
Yeah. I mean, I brought my friend in
huzzah.
to help me from another organization because she's good at that. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just a little Yahoo over here that doesn't organize. I can play chords though. So
Oh.
can you make a
Mm.
schedule?
I can't play chords
Oh,
and I can't make a schedule.
but you can. run races. How's your life going with that?
Well, I have a race this Saturday and I feel like garbage. So I've been trying to channel your mom's tinctures and things like that to try and kick it, drink some apple cider vinegar, rub some oils on it. I don't know. It's going to be fine.
Just throw salt over your shoulder. I think that's the one.
Isn't it your left shoulder is bad luck and your right shoulder is like for money or something though? I don't want to get it wrong.
Maybe Google that. Good luck.
I'll totally Google that.
Guys, join the Widow Wives Club. It's on Facebook. That's where we are and our group is, and it's very interactive and supportive. Facebook, Widow Wives Club.
Yeah, and just make sure you answer all the questions and don't get mad at us. And thank you to all the people who help screen out the increasingly sneaky devils who are trying to get in there to steal my money that I don't have. My money that I already got stolen. Jerks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are poor widows.
So Mel, remember how my credit cards got stolen?
Yes.
And you were like, don't they know that we're widows? And I was like, Mel, they stole our company credit cards and it literally says on there widows. I'm like, these people are the worst. They stole credit cards that say widows on them.
Didn't you say that they were pulling footage from Home Depot?
Yes, the police are actually going to try and catch them. I still have very little hope that they will find the thieves because, I mean, they're going to have a picture and they're going to be like, but I was surprised that they were actually even willing to look for them. I thought they'd just be like, happens all the time.
If we find out who it is, I think that we should submit some letters from our widow friends to the thieves.
Maybe we should dox them a little bit and yeah, okay. I'm for it.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, join the Widows Club. If you want to keep the podcast going and replace our stolen money, go to patreon.com/WWDN. And don't worry, it's all disputed. It's going to be fine. And then tacos, Mel.
Buy us tacos if you so desire, because I mean, we don't have any money now, so we can't eat basically. And that's why Anita's sick. It's buymeacoffee.com/widow we do now. Thanks.
Or just give us a nice rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Let's get to our episode.
I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
We're two young widows just trying to figure out widow
we
do
now.
We're excited about our guest that we're going to talk to today. So should we just get into it, Mel?
Yeah, I say let's do it. Who are you, lady?
Hey, I'm Carrie Pike. So 24 years ago, I started this little company called Carrie Bears, and we make bears out of people's clothing who have passed away. So they're just made actually out of a shirt or out of whatever is meaningful.
So, Carrie, this is not something that people do normally unless they have a grief story of their own. So do you want to back up and tell us a little bit about how you decided to make bears out of dead people's clothes?
Oh my gosh, I thought you were going to say bears out of dead people.
Okay, that's a whole different podcast, Mel.
Right.
That's the true crime one. Carrie, first of all, where do you live? Ish.
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, we're neighbors.
I know. We're close by. It's so good.
Have you always lived in Salt Lake?
Yes, except for like a study abroad for college. Yeah.
Born and bred Utah.
I am.
All right.
Way. I know. Just right here. Right here. Yeah, to answer your question, Nita, my dad died 28 years ago on the 16th of September. So like we're coming up on that day. And he was young. I mean, I felt like it was young. Now that I'm getting older, it was really young. He was like 64. And yours are way young. But it was a shock. It was a bowel obstruction. He'd had some surgery and repair and scarring, and it just twisted his bowel, and it had happened before, but he'd always been able to just have some relief with morphine and it was fine. And then this time it didn't work and it was like hours. And we were like, wait, what? What? So yeah, you guys know. Anyway, my mom was like, what am I going to do with all his clothes? And we were sitting in his closet. And I was just like, I don't know, Mom. And my mom, way back when, so there's 5 girls in my family, 1 boy. And now I have 5 sons. Isn't that funny? Way back when we were 8 years old, every one of us, we would learn how to sew. And I hated it.
I relate with this part.
I mean, like, the stitching, unpicking, and the sleeve looks really dumb, and, whatever. And my mom was so incredibly patient. And I was just like, I don't like this. But as I got older, you appreciate things way more when you get older. And I was just so grateful for her patience and guidance when I was little. And so then, and I'd sew things here and there, and I had made these Christmas bears for like a boutique. And I was sitting in my dad's closet. My mom's like, what am I going to do? And because you can make quilts and you can make different things with them and they're awesome. And so I said, well, let me figure out something. And I took a few shirts and, every family's having something going on in their family. And I have older siblings. Like I have 1 younger sibling and then there's 10 years gap in between me and my next sibling. And they were all older and wiser and all that stuff. And I didn't know how they would, if they'd even like something like a bear out of a shirt of my dad's. I was like, maybe this is weird, And then we had a camping outing and I decided I was going to make bears for all my siblings and take them to this outing. And it was like magic. It was so sweet. And my one sister going through a really awful time, a divorce and stuff, was like, I held my bear every day for a year. She told me that just recently because she needed my dad. So anyway, that's kind of where it started.
So when you started this, it was before the internet, right? So was it?
It was 1999, so it was just started.
Okay.
It was DSL dial-up.
It was not like you could go Google pattern for bear. So did you go to like Joann's Fabric and get a McCall's pattern for bear? Or did you make up the pattern in your mind? Like, how did you figure out how to do it?
Good question. So I don't know if you remember a place called Gentler Times.
No.
Or something handicraft. Anyway, it was, I had a bear pattern because I'd made a Christmas bear.
Okay.
But then I tweaked it to kind of make it my own because I was like, oh, no, I don't like the nose like this. I don't like this. And so I kind of made it my own a little bit.
And you were successful the first time? You didn't mess up any of your dad's shirts, or did you take a few extra?
Oh, such a good question. You know what? I don't remember messing up, but yeah, you can't. I mean, my dad's I could because I could get extra, but you can't mess up someone's grandpa's shirt.
Right. Right.
Had you heard of people making bears out of dead people's fabric before this? Or did you just come up with the idea when you're like, my dad is gone and like, let me merge my worlds?
I had not heard of anyone doing this before in 1999, which is seriously so long ago. But I know there's tons now, which is great. There's a lot of grief, right? There's a lot of loss. So, and it's interesting because I had someone where I was working my day job. I had someone do a little website for me, but it's really, really simple. And I didn't even know if anyone would go to it because it was so way long time ago. but yeah, so it's evolved for sure. But I hadn't heard of someone doing it, but now a lot of people do it. But they look a lot different.
So. I remember when Scott died, that was one of the first things that I'm remembering from those times is people were like, maybe it was my mom, keep Scott's shirts because this can be done. And I was like, okay. And I still have the box of the shirts in the garage and I forgot about it. And it just says bear shirts. And so like years later, I'm like, what is this box? Like shirts with bears on them. And then I opened it up and it was all his really nice shirts. So I know that this has touched a lot of people, whether you know it or not. I know that you know of the ones that you have connected with, but how cool is that and sad, and I guess awesome sad that we're connecting this way. So we heard about you before we even knew you as a person. So we met you, Carrie, at what was it called? The University of Utah Health something or other thing.
Seeds of Remembrance.
Seeds of Remembrance at the University of Utah. So that's where we first met you in person.
But wait, Mel.
What?
Because we have a full circle moment.
Another one? I just had one.
Because then we have a 360.
It's turning
back at
720
hula hoop that keeps going around.
No, when Jason died, I have a neighbor who lives down the street, and her husband died when she was young as well. And I had totally forgotten about this, but she was like, hey, I have a friend who makes these bears, and she came and got shirts, and we have bears for the kids. And then, we reconnect at Seeds of Remembrance, and I was like, wait, I think this is the same person. And so we have Carrie Bears. My kids have them, but I didn't know Carrie until just barely a little while ago.
No pun intended.
Barely. Yeah.
That crazy.
Oh, you're famous in our life.
Oh.
And you didn't know it.
Oh,
We just didn't know you were famous because our brains are. Bleh.
I love that I'm famous to you. I think that's awesome. Thank you. I know. I hope they brought you some comfort, or your kids,
They're fun. Carrie, I have a question though. So you made the bears for your family. They loved them, and it was kind of unexpected. You weren't even sure if it was going to be a meaningful thing for them, and then it turned out to be great. From that moment, did you think it was going to be something that you would offer to other people, or how did it grow from just something you were doing for your own family? Was it word of mouth? Did somebody else ask you to do it? How did it grow from there?
Such a journey. I was pregnant with my third son, and in 98. So I was like playing with the idea. So I made bears, and actually your friend, hers were the very, very first bears.
Oh, really?
What?
Yeah. It's crazy because
that's so funny.
I know. And then I made them for my family, and I was like, okay, maybe this is something. Anyway, so I was pregnant with my third boy, and I wanted my toes painted, and you can't reach your toes when you're really big, So I went to this lady, and I didn't know her super well, but I told her, I said, I think I might try and start this bear thing. And I told her about it, and she said, you should talk to one of my clients who's the director up at the Caring Connections at the University of Utah. And that was like so long ago. And so I did. I went up with this idea, and I said, hey, I'm thinking I'm going to do this. What do you think? You're in this grief world, like helping grief counseling stuff. Do you think this would be something that would be good for people? And she said, yes, I totally think you should do it. So that's kind of really where it went. And I started just attending like hospice conferences and just like local events that had vendors, or like the AFSP walk. I love them. They're
what's that?
American Prevention, Suicide Prevention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
They do. In fact, it was just last weekend, but they do an Out of Darkness walk where they honor their people and have vendors. And so I would go out to that, and just anything that was in the same genre, if that makes sense. So, and then internet came out really big, and so I could put it out there, and someone would find me on a chat board somewhere in California, and I'm like, what? And they'd call me or email me, and then it just kind of went like a lot of word of mouth. Someone in Akron, Ohio, all of a sudden made bears, and then all of a sudden I got all these orders from Akron, Ohio. I'm like, okay.
Tell us what the process is first. They contact you, and then what? Yeah, how does it go? Tell us the process.
I would say at the beginning of the whole Carrie Bears journey, people were a lot of local orders, lots of local orders. And now I'd say that it's mostly out of state that just reach out on the internet. So there's like a part of my website, you can just go in and order what you want. Like some people, I never did eyes. And then all of a sudden people are like, why don't you do eyes? And I'm like, oh, well, I could if people wanted to, so sometimes we use the buttons on the shirt to do eyes or whatever they really want. And so they just go in and order online, like go through if it's a classic bear or a custom bear. Custom bears have like a little bit more detail or like a shirt pants look. I mean, we make the pants out of the bottom part of the bear out of pants and the top part of the bear out of a shirt, so it looks like that. And then, so that's more custom. And then if they want eyes and all that stuff. And some people really want every little scrap of fabric back. Like they want everything. And some people don't want to see it cut up. So everyone's different. Everyone's so different. And so it's an option. Or, and then they just send me their article of clothing and then I send back a bear.
So do you give people any guidance on what shirt or what piece of clothing they should use? Or do you just let them figure out what they want to use?
It's so funny because everyone says, well, what do you think? And I'm like, really, it's whatever means the most to you. Like, they're like, well, do you think a t-shirt's good? And I'm like, if he always wore t-shirts, yes. And, like, they're like, well, what about a tie on a dress shirt? I'm like, we can totally use the other side of the tie, like the small end of the tie. We can make that work. If that's what they always wear, like make it look and feel like your person, if you want. If you don't, it doesn't matter to me. And people will ask me like, so to give you an idea too, like if it is a t-shirt, or I've done some like thermal shirts stretch really big. So it looks like a big marshmallow Stay Puft Man bear. And I'm like, I don't love that, but I know you do because that's what he loved, and that's what he wore. So I do warn people a little bit. I'm like, hey, this is going to be a stretchy bear. And if you're okay with that, then that's great. But like sometimes I've never had anyone say, I don't like it. You know what I mean?
If you have a really stretchy fabric, do you make like a thicker fabric bear and then stretch the stretchy around it so it's not as weird?
That's a good, I could, but a lot of people just want
only
the look and feel of that tangible article of clothing. So not generally. There's some that are really, really thin, and I do line those sometimes, but I ask them first. Or like I've done one out of a scarf that was really thin, and I'm like, I think I might need to line this. Or do you want me to put the scarf around a bear out of something else or something like that? But yeah.
Have you ever gotten a shirt that you were like, this is so ugly?
Or like pit stains in it.
Or smelly or something,
It's
like
really
big grease stain.
It's really gross. Yeah. It's funny. A lot of people are like, should I wash it? I'm like, no, unless you don't like the smell. Because even a bad smell smells like them sometimes. Do you know what I mean? So there's only been a couple of times where there's a ton of dog hair but even that I don't wash because I don't know. It's interesting. But yeah, I had a t-shirt. Yeah. And some people say include the stains and some people say don't include. Like I had a like an apron thing where there was nail polish all over it. And she's like, can you please include the nail polish stains because she did nails? I'm like, yes, of course. So it's just kind of whatever means something to them.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor.
So, Carrie, you have made how many bears to date? Can you even count that high anymore? It's probably so many bears.
I can't. I would say I average 500 to 600 bears a year. And with my highest being 800 bears one year.
Wow.
And of course I didn't start that way. It was 100 or 200 or I can't remember. But and we can talk about this later if it comes up, but in 2001, so that was just a couple years after I started Carrie Bears, was 9/11, and we did over 412 bears that fall for all the firefighters, police officers, and Port Authority. So even that year, not that that was donation, right? That was a service. And so that's not what it wasn't paid, which again, it was just out of people's hearts. But then from there on, I guess 24 years of 400 to 500 to 800 bears.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
too high to math. Okay. So, wow, when you did the 9/11 rescue worker bears, did you do that with special fabric that was not the people's fabric? Like, explain to us what you did with those.
Right? Because how can you do that? Yeah. So everyone, well, okay, you're old enough to remember where you were on 9/11, right?
Yes,
I know you
am.
guys are younger than
I was
me.
in college.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. Everyone that was alive at that time, that's probably over 5 to 10 years old, will remember exactly what was happening that day for them. So about a week after that, the University of Utah called me. The Caring Connections said, hey, can you come up for a meeting? Because we want to do a bear for every firefighter and police officer and Port Authority. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen. I'm like, what are you even thinking? So I went up to this meeting already having a no in my head. And, they were like, well, I don't know if we can get their shirts. I'm like, no, because how would you keep them all straight? And these people this is a huge tragedy. Like, this just happened. They're not going to say, yeah, I'll send you a shirt and you can send it back. No. So we got fabric that they used to make their shirts. Mm. And then I have a special firefighter friend, Dave Turner, who I love him. I won't start crying, but today's really tender because I don't know if you'll include this, but today's 9/11.
Yeah, we're recording this on 9/11.
On 9/11. So I'm all full of emotion, but he was not on duty, but 15 of his guys died that day. And he had just gotten off duty and he went home, which, in Manhattan, they don't live in Manhattan, a lot of them. They live 30, 40 minutes away. And so he had just gotten home off a shift and heard the news and came right back in. And anyway, yeah. So I talked to him today. I talk to them all the time, but today specifically. So he had a connection, and so he got me all the patches. So all the FDNY patches, and on one arm we put FDNY, on the other arm we put American flag, and on all of the backs of them we put in the loving memory of their name and their ladder or their engine or whatever in September 11th. And so, yes, okay, backing up, I said no. No, we're not going to do this. But then I thought, okay, maybe we can make it work. And it was like a whole community effort. Like, there were people in different churches and different school groups and different everything trying to help make this project work. Because the idea was to get them in their arms for Christmas, which was like, 3 months out. So it was an amazing experience. And I don't know, I'm a little emotional about it today, but in the end, these wonderful ladies at the University of Utah who had, I was young, I had 3 little kids at the time, and they had time and means to help this. So anyway, I'd make like 20 ears and take them to a lady and say, can you sew these ears like this? And 20 arms and 20 whatever. And people just all over the valley were sewing little bear parts. And then they brought them all back to me to put them together. And it was nuts. It was crazy, but it was beautiful. And December 15th, 2001, these sweet ladies that I was working with at the university, 3 of them said, hey, we should go to New York and deliver the bears. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't have money to go to New York. And I've never been to New York. And anyway, it was really amazing because one donated their Sky Miles and one said, I'll help you out with this or whatever. And I called Dave Turner and I said, okay, I know we're sending hundreds of bears out there, but is there any chance we can meet some families? And he's like, well, we're having a holiday party on December 15th. So if you could be here for that day, I don't know how the family is going to be. You know, you never know on the day if this is an okay time to talk or not, or hug, or you don't want to talk about anything. And so we had the 15 firefighter bears for engine 54 ladder for battalion 9. And he stuck us in this little side room and said, I have to check with the families and see if this is okay. And so one by one, they came in this little room and we gave them their bear and hugged them and cried. And they were incredible. They would kiss our cheeks and say, thank you for giving me something to hold. Thank you for giving me something to sleep with at night. You know, just like, it was an experience that it changed my whole life. Anyway, okay, so then fast forward 20 years later, I've emailed Dave Turner every 9/11, right? I mean, now I can text him, but for all those years, I was like, hey, Dave, how you doing? I haven't forgotten. Thank you for what you do for your family. And because, you know, he had a lot of survivor's guilt and anyway, he had a crazy experience even trying to get into the city to find his firefighter brothers. And it's a whole other story. But so in 2018, I was headed back to New York and I met some of the widows again. And then we text weekly, monthly, all the time. And then in 2021, the 20th year, I went and did some interviews with them with a foundation called Open to Hope. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they are amazing. And they interviewed us with them, but it was kind of still COVID. So it was kind of, anyway, but I was there before 9/11. And then like a week, I was there at the end of August. And the current firefighters there kept saying, why aren't you coming back for our 20th year? And I'm like, oh, because I'm here now. And, you know, I don't want to encroach on your family and stuff. And they said, no, you need to come back. So I actually ended up going back and being with them. And wow, I just can't even tell you. These people are like, they're family. They're my family, but they're family together. Like there's a bond with those firefighters. And that's the time when I wrote a children's book, just kind of honoring them. So, and I took it back there that time to say, hey, is this okay to write about your experience, your guys? And one of the widows said, now the next generation won't forget us. And I was like, okay, then I'm going to do it. So, you know, anyway, I'm trying to get it into schools and just, I don't know, help people remember because it's a tender thing. And anyway.
What is your book called? Will you show us?
Yeah, it's called Heroes of 9/11. And I don't know. So do you see, well, we can describe it, but there's a fire truck going down the freeway to the buildings. And actually Dave Turner, my friend, and this is a really blurry picture, but can you see that, the real one? Mm-hmm. He was in the same firehouse for 5-10 years after 9/11 hit, but 5 years after, they're in this little, I can't remember what it's called, but it kind of is the watch where they see all the feeds coming in to see where the fires are so they know where to go. And he had a knock on the door and someone came and gave him a paper bag with this picture in it. 5 years after 9/11. And he said, I was on the road that day. I took this picture and it's their engine. It's engine 54. I don't know if you can even see that, but engine 54 driving into the towers, into the danger. And this guy said, I didn't want to sell it to the tabloids. I didn't want to sell it to anyone, but it's time for you to have it. And so I based it on that and he let me use that for the illustration for the book and stuff. And it's just, I mean, I don't know. It's just like, you know, we all remember, I don't know. And it was cool because when I was writing it, I had a prototype that I took back with me and they're like, oh, can you change this? Can you change that? This wasn't what it was like. And I'm like, I'm so happy. Like there was a whole flag when we walked in for 9/11, the Christmas party that we went to. And, you know, and they all gave some gave all. And we held, anyway, we just we're with these families and who had given all, right? who just had given all. And so I don't know, this is kind of funny, but there's Dave Turner back in 2001 and then us 2021. So
Wow.
it was just such a, I don't know, I'm all full to the brim today, especially because I think about him a lot and I've texted each one, but
I wonder if she knows Tanya.
I know. I was like, she made a bear for one of our friends.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
We'll have to ask Tanya.
Yeah. Carrie, you've had a lot of experience making bears and therefore meeting people with tragic stories. So I'm curious, what are a few of your stories, your, I don't want to say favorite, but I'm going to say favorite because it's not our favorite that somebody has died. But some of those stories that have stuck out to you, will you share some of those?
for sure, for sure. So I think, I don't know, probably you feel the same way a little bit, even with your own tragedy, your own loss. I started having like, I shouldn't let my kids go outside, like panicking because there was a mom that brought her little boy's bathrobe and sat in my living room, and we sat and talked about it and cried, and I made this bear out of this little bathrobe. And it was a boy on his bike in the afternoon where or evening where the sun comes through the windshield and you can't really see. And he was the only one out of his whole group that was his friends that were wearing a helmet. And a lady just accidentally hit him and he was killed, And I was like, oh, how do you do this? And I was kind of panicking with this mom. And my kids at the time, I have twins that are now older, but at the time they were the same age as this little boy. And I was like really freaking out. I'm like, I can't, my kids ride their bikes down this hill and and she looked at me and put her hand on my arm and she said, Carrie, you have to let them live. And I'm like, okay, you who have had such loss are telling me to stop panicking and let them live. And that's when I think it kind of switched in me because I hear a lot of grief and it can be hard. But when you take a step back and remember that's why we're here to live and I think to connect with people and love people and see them for who they are. She saw my worry and she didn't go, listen, lady, I'm the one with the loss. You know what I mean? She just gave me such perspective. And from then on, not all the time, but I try to really not sweat the small stuff, not worry about what could happen because anything could happen. So, yeah.
Have you ever had anybody reach out with a really meaningful way that the bear touched them or helped them through their grief?
So many to count, which I'm so grateful. Like they'll email me or send me pictures and I'm like, what? It just makes my heart so happy that it makes a difference. Like it actually helps. And that's where I think the 9/11 stuff, when I went back and they're like, we have our bears. And I'm like, 20 years later, you have your bears, and it made a difference. Yeah, do you know what this cute family? Well, there's a lot, but I'll tell you a couple. This lady lost her son in his 20s, and I think it was cancer. Forgive me for the loss because I can't remember for sure. But she would take her bear everywhere. Like she would send me pictures on the top of some mountain and holding up her bear and taking a picture. And horseback riding. He was like strapped to the back of her back, horseback riding. Or like she just like really. And at times, like over the years, I'm like, do you want me to make you a new one? Because it looks a little tattered, But she was so sweet. And she's like, we just take him everywhere we go. And it made me think, okay, if that's what helps, then that is amazing. And I'm just so grateful to be like tiny little part of that. So yeah, there's just been like, I love it when I see a bear that has been sobbed on because I'm like, okay, that's what they needed that bear for. It was crazy. I'll have to send you a little picture. But again, I'm talking a little bit more about 9/11. But there's a cutest girl when we met her in 2001. She was like 2 years old. And she just held on to that bear and held on to it. And I met her again 20 years later. And she's like this grown adult. And she's like, that bear has been with me everywhere. And I've taken it to college and I took it. And she's like, I just needed my dad. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yay.
Mhm.
It was cool.
So I know from my perspective that a person who's grieving, and you kind of alluded to this before you send off a piece of their clothing to somebody, especially a piece of clothing that was meaningful to you. Like there's a lot of clothing that I would not care one whit about, right? But some of it is important. Do you feel this like weight of responsibility when you get a package of somebody's shirt or clothes? Like I can't, like this is almost like sacred, to be handling and to be working with. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, I had a friend ask me, have you ever lost anything? Have you ever like had a problem or messed up so bad you couldn't fix it? And I'm like, oh, no. I mean, I haven't had any mailing issues except for one where and now it's automated. So it's so much better. But years ago, I transposed a number and it went to a different address. And I was like, oh my gosh. And they weren't answering. Like I didn't have their phone number. And so I asked the post office to go find it. And anyway, in the end, it worked out. But I wrote a letter to the address that was sent to. And I said, you don't understand. This is what your package is. Can you please respond to me that you have it or that you just didn't toss it or something? And they'd been out of town. And so they took it to the rightful owner and they were so happy. Somebody in Alaska had their bear stolen off their porch. And yeah. And she did like a Facebook post that said, in their neighborhood that said, this is what it is. And you have no idea. And they were returned anonymously.
Good.
Wow. Yes.
But overall, I haven't ever I'm very particular. I only have a few seamstresses that help me out. And I always tell them you can't cook or eat or have any smells around you because this is somebody's person, that they can hold on to. So they're really good about that. And haven't had anything totally messed up. But yes, I feel a very sacred responsibility to keep their fabric. And that's why too, I have an option now. Do you want the remnants, the leftover back or not? Because some people don't want to see anything and some people want to see everything. So anyway.
So you've done bears, you've written a book, you've also done some other things.
Yes.
You have a podcast.
I do.
Tell us about it.
Okay. Yes. Actually, so I first wrote this book. It's called
Wait, you wrote another book.
Yeah.
We're learning
She
a lot
just
today.
writes books all over the place.
I hear so many stories and they're beautiful and sad and hopeful, because I think when we share together, we grieve and we heal a little bit together. So I was gathering all these stories and decided someone said, you should write a book. I'm like, I don't know about that. Anyway, it all came together. And then at the very end, the last chapter, and they're all amazing, beautiful, tender, sad, wonderful stories. And the end, I did write a chapter about what we did to make all the 9/11 bears. So my book is called Something to Hold On To. And then after that, I could do a gazillion books. So then someone else said, why don't you just do a podcast? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I have a podcast called Something to Hold On To that just other, like, probably not as consistent as you two lovelies are, but I do have 75 episodes and a lot of sweet, tender, amazing stories that people share with me. And they're so gracious to share. And sometimes it's amazing. And maybe you found this too, but at the end, I'll go and I ask, is there something I shouldn't talk about or something you really want to talk about? Or if there's something you don't, and you just want to say, I'm going to skip that question. I'm like, great, no big deal. But, and at the end, some of them will go, I've never shared that part. And I'm like, And they were so happy to be able to share. I don't know about you, but sometimes people just want people to know who they loved and still love, and just say their name and just honor them by sharing their story. So I think it's cool.
We've noticed too, like sometimes people, when they share something that they never have, sometimes it's their entire story. Sometimes it's a part of their story. Sometimes it could be they want to not have their identity revealed. And then we do get a lot of responses after the fact that it turns out that that was a healing element, them helping others. And then suddenly with the thing that they thought they could never do, then they've done it.
Amazing.
Yeah. I have the best comparison / pun ever. It's all about bearing witness. We really just feel this great hunger to have our experience witnessed. We just want people to see and understand and empathize and just bear witness to whatever we're going through. So that's kind of what your podcast is doing too.
Are the guests the people that you've made bears for? Is that how you find them to interview them?
Yes. And some of them are just me chattering about something or 9/11 stuff or whatever, but or my story. But yeah, most of them are people I've done bears for that have a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a story, and it's beautiful and hard. And sometimes you're like, no way did that happen, and then something else will come up, and or bearing it together, like bearing each other's burden stuff,
this
whatever.
Is a great word, you guys.
Carrie, I know for a fact because we all had tacos and we learned this about you, but we would love for you to tell our audience what you have done in addition to making 8 bajillion bears and writing many books and podcasts and all the things. What else have you done?
Oh man. Well, this year, a friend suggested that I start doing grief retreats. So I know you guys attend, speak, facilitate, I don't know, you go to grief retreats. And so we just did one this summer, and we're hoping to do 3 a year probably. But we actually, you do all the things that are restorative, meditation, yoga, breath work, whatever it is that is included. And it's just a 2-night, 2.5-day thing with meals included and all that fun stuff. But it's amazing how when you are together for hours at times, overnight, you wake up, have breakfast together or whatever. It's amazing how people become so connected. And at first on the intake form, we said, do you want to everyone have the same loss, spouse loss, child loss, whatever loss. And they're like, yes, I want to be with a group that's the same. And this first one was everything from divorce loss to whatever, and they were like, no, I wouldn't change that. I really want to learn from each other's different kinds of loss. And it was beautiful. I don't know. There's something magic getting together and sharing. And I guess we give a piece of ourselves to each other, and it fills up all those broken places and just is really meaningful. So yeah, I'm going to keep going with that. I feel directed to do that. So we'll see, but it's good.
You're a healer.
Oh,
that's what you are. That's how you function in the world.
Thank you.
That's what I see. Helping people with bears so that they can have something for many, many years to remind themselves of their person, honoring people by writing books, sharing stories. And we know from doing podcasts and also in our private group, people share stories. And that's how people heal, is they know that they're not alone. And so the immense amount of work that you've put in your house, sewing stuff, at your computer writing stuff, doing the grief retreats, it's amazing how that spreads out. And then from there, it spreads out from each person that you've touched. So on behalf of people who have required great amounts of healing, us and our listeners, thank you for what you do for the world, because we really need a lot of healing.
Thank you. That means a lot.
I just want to piggyback off of what Mel is saying too, because like we've talked about before, this is kind of a big deal, for people to trust somebody to make something like that. And when you imagine that you're contacting somebody on Etsy who's just doing when you imagine contacting somebody on Etsy who's just doing this as a job and is trying to, make money off of you, basically, it has a whole different feel than somebody who is taking that fabric and is appreciating your person and honoring them and loving them and doing that work out of love and not out of like a money-making scheme. I think it makes a whole difference in that whole process. So I just think you're the perfect person to be doing all of this, because you're like a little angel in a bear suit.
I didn't realize until we talked at lunch that one time that the great care that you took and take to not have other smells or other things in the area. Like even me, like say I send in a shirt of Scott's, I don't think I would even think about that. Oh, I hope she doesn't smell like spaghetti when she's, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even think about that. So that's so important. So that shows how much you care about what you're doing for others and also about what they're going to receive.
Thank you. Thank you. That means so much. It's been a beautiful journey. Like, it's so hard and so sad and so good. I've loved it all. Like, people always say, are you sick of making bears? Because it's a really meaningful gift for Christmas. And I have to cut off orders and go, you're going to have to go into Valentine's Day or something, And it gets really busy. And I watch a lot of stuff or listen to a lot of books while I'm sewing and cutting and whatever. But people go, are you sick of it? Do you just hate it? I'm like, no. I have never once gone, I can't do this anymore. I will do it till my hands fall off.
Wow.
I just love it.
You know what? Like, I hope that nothing additionally tragic will happen in your life, but we're all in life and things are going to happen. And so I hope that if or when that time comes, that you feel all the love from all the people that you have then helped and that they're there for you, because you've helped a lot of people. And also, I just don't want anything bad to happen to you, because you're the best. But
to anyone,
knock
right?
on wood. Yeah.
Carrie, where can people come if they maybe want a bear to get made? She's like, I can't make any more. I'm full up. No. But where can they find the bear services and then maybe the information on podcasts?
You're so nice. Okay, so carriebears.com. It's just CARRIE Bears, BEARS.com is my website for ordering bears or getting information about that. I need to update my little resource page with interviews and, just resources for people, because there's so much out there. There really is a lot out there. Something to hold on to is my podcast, but you could also just search for Carrie Bears, and it's on all the podcast platforms. Amazon has my children's book, but both the books are on my website also.
Carrie, thank you so much for joining us today. We just feel that you have the best personality for this, and your love just exudes out of you. You guys can't even see her, but she's just like exuding all the goodness in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor.
If you guys want to keep the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN. That's what allows us to keep this work going and keep helping all the widows and grievers.
Yep. And if you don't want to do that, but would like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww. You can also get our app available on any app store, and it's just called Widow We Do Now.
And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
I'm Carrie.
And we are just two young widows and a master bear riding grief retreat
healer
podcaster. And we're all just trying to help you figure out Widow
We
Do
Now. This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
Tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks. And so you don't have to pay extra for that. And you still get great service.
Yep. Anita and I have traveled all over and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it if you're on a budget or not. Who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.